this is just a little information I like to share with you. Now, it is not something that I do part of the time. And having been in this line, now from time to time I get interrupted. I have to accept people in. I hope you don't mind. Now, it is not something that I do part of the time. I do it full time, and therefore I spend a lot of time looking at how students are tested. And I even look at the test item, how I can actually modify them so that in some ways I spot questions for my students and I prepare them to answer those questions well. So this is what I have been doing for the last 30 years. Now, if I do tell you that these kind of questions will turn up, please take it seriously. If I say, forget about that, don't waste your time, most of the time I'm right with that, yeah? So sometimes kids are so worked up because they can't solve 1-2 questions. And those questions are more for enrichment, more for challenging the intellect, not for exam, yeah? I believe if you give it to any of the teachers, they will take some time to solve also. So it's not meant for exam, but for enrichment. Now, I think most students, when they think about exam preparation, they really have very faint idea how to prepare for exam. Now, I asked some of my students of other levels as well. The common response is, okay, I study harder. What do you mean study harder? What do you study harder? How much time do you need to allocate for that? So instead of answering those questions, I want to focus on a couple of points here. Now, your coverage is very important. What you cover in your preparation. And then what you spend a lot of time in preparing is also very important. So, you see, if we know students are making common mistakes, they must learn from the common mistakes. And then maybe also worked out, are those common mistakes avoidable? You know, I will show you a list of common mistakes later. Some are transference error. Some are basically just misconception. So if there is any misconception of the mathematics, that got to be corrected. Now, you can repeat many practices. It will turn up again and again. Then it will not be careless mistakes anymore. It's telling you something is wrong with the understanding of the math. So we have to go down to that level to help. And for me, when I prepare for my P6 students, I have a list of 100 over common mistakes that they must not make. Now, they don't just read through it, they have to actually understand why. And then the misconception of the math must be corrected. Now, of course, key concept, key knowledge must be learned well. If you ask any of the students here, yeah, most students will tell us that they don't use the math textbook. And if you talk to Westerners, they love our textbook. We call it the Singapore brand of math. It's so systematically laid out. It's incredible the amount of knowledge you can gain from just going through the pages. Yet our students are not doing it. What do they do then? They practice and practice on the math while the knowledge is lacking. Now let me give you this illustration. It's like you have a bag. And the bag is so rugged and torn, and then you fill water in, the water keep leaking, you keep on patching up. Now, wouldn't it be good to start off with a new bag and fill it up, right? So when we deal with concept from start again. We are actually giving you a new bag so you can collect that knowledge. Of course, if you look at, I know most mothers are very good with this. They prepare the kids by looking through the past paper, and they try to, figure out what would turn up in section C. If you talk to mothers, they really are quite good, but their knowledge is within that few years, right? But we run through longer years, we see a trend. So we actually have different categories of questions that the students must master. And those which are not necessary, we don't bother them. Yeah. Now, the answering technique is also very important. Take a look at your children's work. I think most of the time you see lines and lines of numbers. We call it number statements. Yeah. And then sometimes the teachers in schools are so nice. They see certain, identifiable number statement, they just mark and give you the method mark. I call it the sympathy mark. You see, in exam, no one knows this paper belongs to Caden or Kessler or whoever. All they know is this, that this is number 1345. And there's no feeling attached to that paper. They mark according to the scheme. They are ready to cross out. They are ready to deduct marks. So, you see, we have to present clearly with label. So it's not so confusing to the marker, and it's also good for him to see immediately without trying to figure out that step too hard. Yeah, it takes up time, and they have got time limit on marking. Now, also the effective practice. Now, what do parents do? What do kids do nowadays, during holidays especially? I've talked to some primary school kids. They tell me that the parents bought stacks of assessment books, so they run through from page 1 all the way to the end. First, kids do get bored practicing. Second, they just don't have so much time. So they have to find time from somewhere else. So the time spent could be at the expense of something else, could be rest, could be recreation. So to freshen them out. So if they are all the time practicing almost aimlessly, they will be very unproductive in the longer run. So I would say effective practice is to identify the areas of need and then zoom in on those areas. So it's not just give a book, but highlight certain things that they need to do. If they make mistake, redo those type so that they can get better at those, not randomly. Yeah. So also, most students, when they practice, they take forever. They have coffee break, they have TV break, they have game break in between. Now, the conditioning for exam is not there. So if I give the students a set of exercise, they must comply to the examination condition as closely as possible. For maybe 1 hour, don't stop, keep on going, right? And then as time goes by, lengthen the time with the actual paper. If there are only fewer questions, then you shorten the time. So this is based on whatever time is available. Then there will be last minute review. What do you do last minute, right? Yeah. So later on, I go through a list with you. And also, the most important thing is mental toughness. I think most of us who play sport understand that it's not about skill. It's not about even a lot of preparation, like, kicking the ball 1,000 times into goals, yeah, from different angles. We think we are better. But on the day when you look at the opponents, oh, they look so much bigger, they look so much better in build, then suddenly our confidence level goes down. It's just like students going into exam. They try the first question, they stumble, boom, low in confidence. Then the next question, they feel that they're unsure, they skip. And then a lot of students skip, and then end up, they skip so many, they come back to redo them, they reread, and then what happened? They waste time just reading. The first time before they skip, and then another time after they skip. A lot of time wasted. So the mental toughness, how do we train students to be so tough in their thinking, to say, what I do not know, now I should be able to do it because the examiners are testing me on what has already been taught in school. So that would totally change your mind. So when you go in to do this work, you're confident, especially those who have been going through examination conditioning. Like in KRTC, we make sure our students go for progress review under strictest exam condition because they really need the run. Several ones, in fact, so that they are so confident in the preparation. So when they do get hiccup a little bit in major exam, they know they can rough it out. They can go through it again. No problem. Now, let me just have a little break with you. Yeah, you see the few questions there, okay? And then I want to look at you again, right? I hope you remember the questions in your head. I'm not going to tell you, right? So at this stage of the year, do you know the date of your PSLE exam? And how many papers are you sitting for? And on which day? And how much time is each paper? And what's the weightage of each paper? How many sections are there? And how many types of questions in each section? And which section can you use a calculator? So I'm going to break a little, right? Okay. Now, anyone wants to just say something about those questions? Not for me to correct you, right? Nobody. How about the exam dates for start? PSLE Math.
1st of October.
Okay. Well done. Any other thing you want to share? Now, let me tell you a little story, right? Now, I used to watch this movie, King of the Gambler. He trains other people in gambling. So I'm not saying that all of you should gamble, but he say you can't gamble when you don't know your notes. So he trained the guy to understand the notes. So similarly over here, I say to you, you need to know all these basic information, like when the exam is, so you know how to pace yourself out, right? Have a certain program to prepare yourself for the exam. And then you also need to know what kind of questions you'll be expecting. So if you don't know, you have to rely on other expertise, the experts to tell you that, right? Talk to them, talk to your teacher, talk to your friends who are doing well. Yeah, look through the past paper, really study it, right? Now, for students with me, I've done the hard work for you. I just tell you, right? It takes a lot of trust for you to believe that what I say is correct, but you can always verify it, right? Okay, let's go back, yeah. Now, what stress students out is this. They always think, when am I fully prepared? They try very hard, and then they find that, oh, I'm still not too prepared. So students who get very stressed out when they really do not know how much is enough. So we always know how to quantify the enough for them to do very well. So we tell them, hey, Jaden, now you're okay. You only need to work on this area of work, so that your kids will not be so stressed. Can you imagine you keep on hitting high pace and then you don't know when you reach there, and you over prepare, you get too stressed, and on the day you underperform. So it's important to know when to stop trying too hard. And the worst part is also those who do not know what they need. They are slacking when the time's still about a month away. They think they have plenty of time. These are the other extreme of people. They will find themselves very stressed closer to exam when they finally know that they don't have too much knowledge and skills. Okay, then we really need also to know whether we are ready for exam. The knowledge part, the skills part is one thing. You need to know whether you're ready or not. Who is better to tell you than people who have marked the exam paper before? We know the requirement of the markers. We know why they set such a question, right? So it's like playing a game of soccer. You cannot say I go onto the field and play it the way I like. If you're playing the goalkeeper position, you take the ball and run outfield. Is that all right? You're not following the rules. So I would say, hey, we play by the rule. We know what the examiners want. If they want to test us on heuristic skills, we show them in our working. We show it so clearly they cannot be mistaken that it's something else. And when we present the answer, we show it so clearly with a statement, it cannot be misunderstood. You know what I've seen over the years of marking? I give you one example. Guess and check. Nicely done. Fantastic heuristic skill. Then they expect the marker me to go and look for the answer on the table. To me, the question is not answered at all. Other steps I can appreciate. So this student will get part of the marks, but not full marks. Now, you may say, okay, at least some marks. But can you imagine if you have a lot of questions with some marks, then it amounts to a lot of marks lost. So that's the point, yeah? And we say, hey, what do you do between now and exam? It depends on when you suddenly wake up and say, I need to study hard, yeah, and study well. So if you start now, you got plenty of time. You got a lot of gap there. You can just relax. But if it's closer to exam, like August, oh, it's stress. Yeah, it's stress. When you're under stress, you can't learn well, you can't perform well. That is simple. Now, but can you still do something at any stage of the year before the exam? In fact, I say the night before, you can still do something. But don't expect to do the same amount of thing, yeah, way before than compared to the night before, yeah. Yeah, of course, if you have done the hard work the night before the exam, it will be just a slight review, yeah, a little bit of refreshment of key ideas, that's all. But if you're learning for the first time, you're trying to do it the night before, no way, yeah, you all know that it's impossible. But some students will tell you that, hey, I did it, you know, I could. That's because the hard work had been done before. They just forgot, but they needed a little bit of reminder, easier to refresh that way. I promise you, I want to look at some common mistake. Now, over the years, I classified 5 kinds of mistakes I commonly see. Of course, there are more. Those are weird, right? Now, the first one is transference error. I do that too. Sometimes maybe with the age, just see the numbers wrongly. Instead of 18, it's 16. And then when I write it down on paper, it's different. So, of course, sometimes when you work through the whole thing and you realize the final answer for number of books is 3.5. Oh, it doesn't work out right. Then you backtrack. So sometimes the answer tell you, hey, you could have made a mistake before. But supposing your answer is still nice at the end, sometimes it's like that, right? So don't assume. Look through your basic information again, just to make sure you have all the right info to work through, or that you have worked through the right sets of information. Misinterpretation, oh, that's awful. Now, twice as much and twice more than, it's a lot of difference. Twice more than, 2 boxes to 1 box. Twice more than, 3 boxes to 1 box. See the difference if you compare the 2 quantities. Misreading. Kids make a lot of mistake with this. Okay, let me just disable annotation. I'm getting weird things. Okay. Now, misreading. For instance, I give 1/5 of money to my wife, and the remainder, out of the remainder, half I give to my son. Some people will forget the part about remainder. They say, oh, half of the total given to my son. Or another common one is James consumed 1 kg of sugar. There's a lot of sugar. It only happens in math question. And then 1/5 of sugar he actually coughed out, did not swallow. These 2 quantity, one is with the unit kg, one is referring to the amount, 1/5 of the amount. So when students do their work, they think that all 2 are actual amount in terms of kg. That is also misreading. Okay, or routine calculation. Sometimes you see 30 divided by 5 is 7, is that kind of carelessness, I would say. I think this sort of calculation is less now because students are given a calculator. Conceptual error. Now, even today when I was teaching the class, Sec 1, they still do circle, right? Now, it shocked me, P6 they learn circle, and I've taught them circle, and some cannot get out the thinking. I asked for area of circle, they gave me the perimeter or the circumference of the circle. So these are called conceptual error, mixing up the area and perimeter or circumference of circles. So these are the basic type of errors. If you know they appear again and again, you know how to deal with them. So if it's like the last one that I'm talking about, reteaching is necessary. No amount of practice is going to change it. And I notice, you can give them the same type of question, they're going to make mistake again and again. Okay. Now looking at the time, it's 9 o'clock. Now, some students ask me, do I really need to use the heuristic method? Do I? Now, my simple response to them is this. If they spell out the number of heuristic method, they must be for a good reason. and the school teachers must teach them. These are skills necessary to overcome obstacles in problem solving. Now, not only that, I find students using heuristic method will show better working, more structured working. And I also see that their thinking is clearer because they're guided by a certain approach. And the better thing is this, they definitely score better. So you ask me whether it's necessary for them. I say, yes, of course. If you're aiming for the high marks, if you just want to pass, maybe you can get by without them because you're saved by your MCQ and the short response. But we are talking about word problem. Now, this more difficult question, we call the challenging type. You see every year, there are one or two. They are the 10% maybe of the paper, or even less sometimes. The routine type of question, those routine type, I say, appears every year. They amount to about 90%. If you know this kind of breakdown, you wonder why you want to spend 90% of your time preparing for 10% type of question. It's better to correspond with the weightage. Spend 90% of your time on math preparing the routine question. Now we all know, like any race, you start at the same place. In math, you start with 100%. Then anything you don't know or make mistakes on, marks are deducted. So you can imagine, when you run through all the routine math questions, you're dropping marks everywhere. And then you are concerned with the 10% challenging question, which is even harder to achieve because these are almost out of the world for some students, especially if they're not trained in Olympiad math, okay, or they're high level thinking math. So anyway, the encouragement is this. If you drop the 10% of the difficult question, you're almost still at level with others who also can't do it. But you drop one simple routine question, you'll be way back there because not many people will drop marks in routine questions, especially like MCQ. You're expected to score full marks. Now the answering technique. Now today you may find that, hey, I'm not dealing with a lot of example on math, but it's a reminder, okay? It's a reminder. Now, if you get access to my video, you will see in detail things that I talk about in the context of answering math questions. You see the structure and everything else. So, in simple way to look at answering technique or parts, use the method. I'm talking about word problem. Use the method. Show the method. And label the parts. You know some typical students' work, the average, slightly above average students, they do it like that. Whole page is full of numbers. It's like multiple choice for me if I'm marking the paper. I should choose, this line looks like he understands something, so let me give him some marks. Like I say, in exam, if it's not clear, man, that mark will not be yours. You should break it down. If it's unitary method, it's one unit giving you this, and show clearly what that one unit represents. Now, the separation of solution and rough work. Rough work is on the right side. Nobody looks at the rough work. They're called the non-essential steps. No marks will be given to, let's say, addition. Maybe addition is important in P1, P2. By the time you come to 4, 5, 6, they are considered non-essential steps. No teacher will look at the rough work. Importantly, no marks will be given for that as well. Legibility of handwriting and flow of working, yes, important. Subdivide your page so that you do column by column, top down, if you know you need space. I find a lot of arrows everywhere all the time, or worse still, no arrow, but insertion of this part and that part everywhere. So I wouldn't know the flow. Sometimes after marking most part of it, then I realized, hey, this kid, he actually understood certain part, but I already given the marks there. I already penalized him. So sad. If I didn't spot it, then this kid will be given less marks or fewer marks than he deserves. So this is why answering techniques must be there. Okay, now last minute review. We talk about last minute review, right? Now, the methods, there's so many methods. Before this talk, I was having the P6 class. We were struggling through part and unit method. This is one of the methods that is spelled out that most students must know. Yeah, and most of them have not heard of it. It's like aliens to them. Now, of course, most schools will have taught supposition, ratio method, yeah, but they taught it in a certain way that is very raw. It's not enhanced, yeah, like an enhanced social distancing measure. Enhanced, the word is enhanced. What is built onto it so we can do it even better? Like guess and check. Today we talk about with the P6, guess and check. Most teachers will say, if you don't show 3 steps, then sorry, you don't get any marks. Over the years, I have fought for that. I say, teachers in school, two layers will do. I show them 2 layers will do with clarity. They cannot fault the student if they have this clarity. And you can imagine if the kids are really simply guessing without any clear thinking, that guess list can go a long way. So the longer it goes, the kid's confidence level drop. After some time, he will just give up. Yeah? So it's like some people digging for diamond. You can see the cartoon illustration, I think it's very common. Just one dig away from the diamond and he gave up. So it can happen here. So if we teach the enhanced method, then the kids will know for certainty, if I apply this, the next line I can get the answer. Why not, right? So these are all the methods any students must know. Of course, there are more. Those are additional. So those additional ones are just good for marketing purposes. You hear it a lot from different tuition center or even teachers. But if you master this list is good enough to cover most of the questions. So last minute, you want to flip through, your basic concept. Yeah, but flip through what? The textbook is too thick to flip through. So something that you flip through for refreshment must be something you've been using. It cannot be the night before the exam you use for the first time. You get a flash card stack and you try to see it for the first time. It must be something you have reviewed many times. You know it by heart. You just want to be refreshed, reminded of something. The formulae, very important. Yeah. Problem-solving method I mentioned. Problematic area. Every year we run special courses. I run specialized courses to deal with difficult topics. Which difficult topics? Fractions, percentages, speed, circle. Most students will have difficulty with them. So when we run through those topics, we highlight the important things they should know. Again, not the fanciful thing, because it can go the other way. Too much, too overloaded, too challenging, and then the kids get discouraged. Okay, so let me just reconnect with you again. Yeah, up to here, is there any difficulty in appreciating some of the things that I have spoken to you? No? Okay. Let me go on. But if you have questions during the question answer time, you can just feel free to ask, right? Let me have something of percentages for you. Is some thoughts on percentages. I hope it would help you. All of you start with 100% before marks are being deducted. It is true. So the idea is don't drop easy marks. Some marks, you can't help it, you know, you just drop it. It's fine. You are tested 50% less than what you learned in 6 years of primary school education. You see, if a student go for any exam, math exam, say, and she scores 60% on paper, I would say she doesn't know 60%. She doesn't know more than 40% of the work, because a lot more are not tested. You can imagine if other things are tested, she might have problem. So sometimes we feel so happy, oh, 80 plus, I'm doing well. The 20 marks represent only a fraction of those maybe the students don't know. That's why for a lot of students, the marks go up, down, right? Of course, we always blame it on the tutor, because the tutor maybe didn't do too well this time. Yeah, hey, the marks not ideal. I'll sack the tutors, right? But you must understand, a kid does well in certain tests, maybe she's just being tested on those things she knows. There are a lot of things to be tested, but we can't fit everything on one paper. Now, a big portion of your preparation goes into preparing for challenging questions that make up less than 10% of the paper. That is tragic, as I mentioned before. You see, all these are percentages. We talk about percentages here. You see, the worst thing is that you prepare for difficult questions, your anxiety goes up. It's going to affect you if you can't do, or you can't perform just as well in the routine question. The only comforting thing I can tell you with challenging question, I would say 75% of the students in Singapore would not get it right. They may get partially right. So also another strategy is, you may not be able to do the question completely, but you must do something about the question to collect some marks, right? Okay, you know what myths are, right? So thinking that is faulty, that is not right. If the thinking is faulty, it doesn't help. Because let's say someone say, if you want to do well, work hard. This guy might be having the wrong thinking. Maybe I just work hard, put in all the hours, I will do well. Not right. That thinking got to be busted. Like, look at point 1, hard work and right effort not equal. Right effort means you must know what you're preparing yourself for. Yeah, use the right material, use the right approach. 2, some people say, okay, let me cover as many variety as possible, but giving little attention to details and depth. So you could be a generalist, very good with most things, but when it's testing you in depth, you're in trouble. That's not good either. So there could be a fine balance of the depth and the width. Of course, we don't want to go too wide. Some people think, go wider, read wider. But we are talking about exam, not enough time, right? If it's interest sake, fine, but we are preparing for exam. Right now, even for me, I give some of my students prelim paper to practice. That's because they're bored. But if you ask me, prelim paper, a good way to prepare for exam? No. Some are too hard, too overloaded, not balanced at all. So if you practice on those papers and you get 60 plus, don't feel sad. It's not an indicative measure of your PSLE scores. If you look at PSLE paper generally, they're easier, right? Easier because also certain things that test to a certain level, not too deep. Where depth is required, they'll go further. Those are for the section C. Now, just now I casually mentioned school teachers have feelings for students. So students tend to get a lot of sympathy marks. Part of my practice is to collect exam paper from school students and then to look at how teachers mark. Amazingly, a lot of marks are given without reason. So sometimes the student would do quite well and have some false security that they're doing okay, and therefore they slack in their preparation. That's not a good outcome. Easier PSLE paper, does it mean you're going to get better grade? No, because you still must know your easy question. You must still know how to prepare for it and answer them. Yeah, easier paper doesn't mean it's going to be better marks. In fact, I would say most people will get better marks, but for yourself, you need to work to get that mark. Not necessarily more difficult paper for 2021. You see, every year, the P6 student will tell me, last year was easy, this year is going to be difficult. Every year I hear that, then I wonder which year is more difficult. Now, some years a little bit challenging, but you wouldn't know. So the idea is there are enough marks to score excellent results, right? 90% are easy marks. Okay. I just give you a little preview of what I'm doing with some of my programs, like this particular one, Guidance for PSLE. Now, the design of the program is based on what I've been saying. Now, this is open for everybody. You can see the way I structure my program is like what I said. They are students who are going to have challenging time with different topics, circle, speed, percentage, fractions. They need to deal with those because a lot of questions are asked on those topics. But fundamentally, they need to restart in those topics. It's not good to patch up, so we start all over again. And then there must be paper by paper preparation. So your MCQ, there is a certain way to tackle them, short response, that too. Of course, when you come to section B and C, totally different technique required. Yeah. Now, there will be sessions that we deal with, skill by skill. we don't do the whole array of that. They need to build up enough information, skill by skill. Then further along, you notice that I always tell students, and then I prepare questions based on what I've researched. These are the common questions that would turn up. That is to help them prepare better. They don't have a lot of time. They don't need a lot of practice. Maybe they need more time in other subjects. Math, they can actually do it in shorter time. But they have to be serious. You know, sometimes they think, oh, this guy is just saying this. But I back it up with past record. So it doesn't help also. Other people are saying it, oh, this is going to turn up. And then when it didn't turn up, nobody is holding them accountable, right? And part C. So I look at the past year paper with the kids, and then I use modified questions to train them further. So that is the effectiveness of practice and preparation. Of course, they must run through all the common mistakes, and then to actually tell them why it's wrong. It's not just wrong and then leave it, right? Tell them what's wrong, and then the correct way to do it. And then there must be a quick way to review the concepts. I'll show you something later, the flashcard that I think most of you will be getting. Every year, I'm getting about 85% for A star in a class. We don't have a policy of recruiting only the best. So that percentage actually is quite high. You can imagine if I just take students from Tao Nan, the top end, it will be 100%. If I take students from St. Nicholas Girls, top end, I could safely say 100% A star. But we don't have a policy like that. Anyone who comes, we accept and we help. So last year's cohort, we achieved 90% A star. There's one student, in fact, in the class who had a jump of 4 grades. Amazing. Never passed, but jumped 4 grades. And the important thing is that at the end, the parents are happy. Whatever grade they got, A or A star, they're happy, they're relieved that PSLE is out of the way. Of course, they don't realize in 4 years' time, GC O level is around the corner. That is another one. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, when you come for a talk like that, maybe you have a lot of expectation, I don't know, right? But this is what my students would eventually get. 3 stacks of flashcards. Maybe now you don't know what I'm talking about, but these are facts, knowledge distilled into 1 card. 1 idea, 1 card. There are 150 ideas. Over the years, my students have been using it to ace their math. And this year, they will get 5-minute video every day. So if they sign up for the course, we have 12 weeks. So at the end of 12 weeks, they have 252 videos. That's a lot. And the thing is that I don't give them 1 go. Every day, just 3. 3 times 5 minutes is 15 minutes of their time. That's all. I believe in regularity. I believe in enough dosage, not overkilling, because students can get tired of it. And the teaching materials are updated because I all the time teach. It's not I sit in the office and try to figure things out. I teach, I realize that they have difficulty, and I modify certain things. I introduce certain things. Now, no big deal, free past year paper, everybody can get it, but with me, it's easy to ask for it. And then weekly, we have unique teaching material, just to help students overcome certain difficulties. So to me, it's no point saying, good luck, children, I wish you all the best. But to me, there must be something concrete given to them. I cannot sell that this is a good program, but it must be something substantial. So my last word of encouragement. You still have time to make a difference to your grades. In fact, your exam, as somebody mentioned just now, is 1st of October. It's a lot of time, really. The content is not a great deal too heavy to bear, but questions present itself in a variety of ways, so they have to be familiar, and you can't learn it overnight, so pace it out. You have plenty of time. But you must know what to do. That's the thing. If you attempt to improve, you have a good chance. I remember some quotes by Abraham Lincoln. He says, in great attempt is glorious to even fail. I always remember that. So I always give my best. So if I fall short of my own standard, it's still very good. So I expect the kids in my class to do like that too. So maybe you would expect your kids to do that too, if really the best. Even if they fall short, it's not too far off. Now next is, even if you do not achieve your goal, you would not be too far off. That's what I just mentioned, right? Now, some people do occasionally fall badly, right? For some reason. Nobody knows, because we don't know the marking of the paper, we can't see it. And then I would say, for those people, please remember, PSLE don't define you. In fact, no exam define you. Yeah, you are yourself, and you can make good of most of the failures in life. It's whether you want to persevere or not. Now, we are closing to the end. I just quickly show you what a stack of flashcards will look like. It will be like this, where you have got one idea with explanation, easy for the kids to revise. You know, it doesn't take long, 1 minute, one card. Of course, the first time round, you take a little longer to digest. But these things are distilled from many years of teaching experience, and also looking at exam questions all the time. Yeah, nobody is so full-time like me, maybe because of the interest as well. Yeah. So this is what I mean by flashcards.